Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives of families of critically ill patients in intensive care, so that you can have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered, and in last week's episode I answered another question from one of our readers, and the question last week was: my mum has been diagnosed with stomach cancer and is in ICU ventilated. Can I take her home on a ventilator? You can check out last week's question by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer another question from one of our readers, and in this week, Yuri from New York asks: my 80-year-old father is in intensive care with myeloma. The intensive care team has asked me to sign a DNR, which stands for Do Not Resuscitate Order, and I refused. What are my options? Hi Patrick. I have a question regarding my 80-year-old dad with end-stage multiple myeloma who has developed difficulties breathing. They put him on oxygen, but later told me that I should sign a DNR or Do Not Resuscitate Order, since the intensive care team didn't want to intubate him. I refused. Now he's in ICU intubated, and they keep insisting to sign the DNR or Do Not Resuscitate Order. The intensive care team refused to treat his multiple myeloma about a month ago. Initially they told me to transfer him to a hospice, and now they are saying I should sign the DNR or the Do Not Resuscitate Order. The ICU doctors are saying he has fluid on his lungs and some lesions from the cancer. What are my options at this point? Thank you, Yuri. Hi Yuri, thank you for making contact. I'm very sorry to hear what you and your dad are currently going through. As far as your question goes, you need to know the following. First of all, Yuri, good on you for standing your ground. I can see that you are different already. 99% of families of critically ill patients in intensive care are intimidated by the perceived authority and by the perceived power of the intensive care team, that they just do whatever they tell them. Well done for standing your ground and for being a strong advocate for your father. Your options as it relates to the intensive care team asking you to sign a Do Not Resuscitate Order are simply to not sign the Do Not Resuscitate Order if you don't want to, or if you think it's not in your father's best interest. If they continue to keep pressure on you, just ask them their reasoning for the Do Not Resuscitate Order. For example, does the intensive care team need the bed that your father currently occupies for the next admission? Do they really think they won't make any money by continuing treatment on your father? Does your father not meet any medical research category and they therefore have no interest in treating him? On the other hand, you have to be honest with yourself, with your father, and with your family as well. What do you think are the benefits of continuing treatment for your father? Multiple myeloma is a terrible and horrible disease, and patients tend to suffer a lot, especially in intensive care. Often, if myeloma patients are put on the ventilator with a breathing tube, they tend to have difficulties getting off the ventilator because of their poor general condition. That being said, patients with multiple myeloma can certainly come off the ventilator. However, it tends to be difficult. The question is, why did they refuse treatment for the multiple myeloma 1 month ago? Do you think it was justified, or do you think there may have been any other reasons? Also, what does your father want if he could make the decision himself? Have you discussed a worst case scenario with your father? Furthermore, do you and your family need more time to come to terms with the situation? If so, you should certainly take your time and not sign a Do Not Resuscitate Order. Be mindful, however, that your father isn't unnecessarily suffering. Also, in order to find out what's really going on, do the following. If the intensive care team keeps pressuring you about signing the DNR or the Do Not Resuscitate order, ask them for their policy about the consent from families for signing a Do Not Resuscitate order. They must have a policy, and if you ask for it, they instantly know that you've done your own research, and it'll give you peace of mind, control, power and influence. The policy will also show you whether they are transparent or not. Also, here are some links to articles or videos that will help you in your situation, as it not only relates to DNR, withdrawal of treatment, and also about how you can even better prepare for having peace of mind, control, power and influence when dealing with the intensive care team, especially if they ask you for a more formal family meeting. So, the articles or the videos you can access by clicking on the link below the video are: how can I be prepared, be mentally strong and be well positioned for a family meeting with the intensive care team, part 1 and part 2. The next article or video you can access is family meetings in intensive care, or the elephant in the room. The next article or video you can look up is the 5 questions you need to ask when the intensive care team is talking about futility of treatment, withdrawal of life support, or about withdrawal of treatment. The other article you can access, or the video you can access, is that's linking to family overjoyed as top court rules that doctors must seek consent before taking a patient off life support. You can access that article as well. It's actually talking about a recent case in Canada. Also, in case things turn sour and in case your father is approaching his end of life, here are some helpful articles and videos to effectively deal with end of life in intensive care. So, the first article and video you can look up is what you need to do if your loved one is dying in intensive care, part 1 and part 2. The other article and video you can access is a 5-step blueprint for dying well and with dignity in intensive care. I really hope that helps, Yuri. It sounds to me like you are trying to steer your own ship and you are trying to effectively manage the intensive care team. I can only encourage you to do so. Make sure you act in your father's best interest at all times, and that may mean to let go as well if you think this is the right thing to do, and also when you and your family are ready. This is your and your family's time, and you want to have peace of mind, control, power and influence. Please let me know if you have any other questions or if you get stuck. Thank you once again. How can you have peace of mind, control, power and influence whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 killer tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to peace of mind, control, power and influence in your situation. You will get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You will get crucial behind the scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered, and I'll see you again in another update next week. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.